I'd like to call on stage my panelists. His Excellency Salim bin Nasser Al-Aufi, His Excellency Dr. Abdullah bin Ali Al-Amri, Doctor, Your Excellency. His Excellency Luigi Di Maio, and Mr. Hilmi Panigoro. We're going to use handheld mics. I think everybody at the back wasn't hearing us very well. Please do let us know so we can make the most of it if you can hear us at the back. We're switching to handheld mics. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, for being here. I'll introduce you very quickly. His Excellency Salim bin Nasser Al-Aufi, he is the Minister for Energy and Minerals. Yes, sorry, I forgot minerals. His Excellency Dr. Abdullah bin Ali Al-Amri, he is the Chairman of the Environmental Authority in Oman. His Excellency Luigi Di Maio is EU Special Representative for the Gulf region. I think you were introduced earlier, I think the thing that struck me most is how young you are, and I'm very, I admire the fact that how much you've achieved so far. Mr. Hilmi Panigoro is the President Director of Medco Energy. I was most impressed that you've spent working now for 43 years, and may you have many, many more. This session, I'll be looking at the global commons. I just had a few words that I wanted to say about the global commons. Maybe I can ask people at the back, please, can you either sit down or leave the room? I can still hear chatter at the back. The global commons are being stretched to breaking point. The planetary boundaries that have sustained civilizations for over 1,000 years are being exceeded. The rate at which we are seeing decline is unprecedented, with biodiversity loss, forest clearing, CO2 levels increasing at an alarming rate, and the rising ocean levels together with their acidification. All this poses significant risk to the Earth's stability and viability of life. On a global level, we've seen a number of disasters, and on a local level in Oman, we've also witnessed an increase in the devastating occurrences of cyclones and heavy rains. I see that it's an opportunity here for corporate and institutional responsibility to come into play as a vital role, play a vital role to reduce not only the ecological footprint, but also improve and reverse the effects of adverse climate change. I also see it as an improvement, an opportunity for innovation and growth in investments that we haven't seen previously, and creating resilience and growth into the economy into newer areas such as renewables, green hydrogen, etc., carbon sequestration. And the following discussion, I'll be discussing these environmental challenges that we're facing and looking at practical solutions through policy, investment, innovation, and collaboration. So I'll start with energy transition and climate action. With 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries breached, including climate change, urgent action is needed to transform our energy systems while maintaining economic growth. Your Excellency, Oman has set ambitious renewable energy targets with plans for green hydrogen production. How is the ministry balancing the continuous importance of hydrocarbons to the economy while accelerating the clean energy transition? What specific policies are proving to be most effective?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this panel discussion and to join you today. Let me start with the last part. If we look at the energy mix globally, we are still producing and burning coal. We're still producing and burning coal. So if we really take our position on that, where of course we're not producing or burning any coal, but if we take our position, we have not said that we will stop or slow down the production of hydrocarbons. We will continue to produce oil and we will continue to produce gas so long as there is a market for these 2 commodities. But what we will do is we will do that in a much cleaner way. So, for example, we have set ourselves a target to eliminate routine flaring by 2030. And after that, of course, we will go into the non-routine flaring, but routine flaring by 2030. We're also working on abating the methane emission also by 2030. That will reduce a lot of the emissions that we are doing from the oil and gas sector. We are transitioning the sector also to start utilizing renewable energy as a way of producing the electricity that is needed by the sector itself. In most of the cases, with the exception probably in the areas where we need to have steam generation, and for that we need heat, unless of course we can crack the code of producing the heat using solar steam, for example, then we will continue to use gas for that specific purpose, and of course we collect the heat and use it for steam generation. We are seriously considering the mobility part of the hydrocarbon, whereby number one, reduce the number of kilometers we drive, and number two, start replacing some of the vehicles with either hydrogen trucking, which we are sort of studying almost close to the end, or electric vehicles where the diameter or the distances driven are short, which allow us to fuel and back within the same sort of filling space. We're also working on, of course, modernizing some of the equipment. So for that, we continue to produce oil and gas, but at the same time, we do it clean. Now, that is only one pillar. Of course, the second pillar is transitioning the electricity sector itself. We set ourselves a target of producing at least 30% of the energy mix from renewable energy by 2030. The numbers we're seeing today are actually quite promising. During the day, on a day like this, we probably will reach about 32%, 33% by midday. On average, this year will probably be around 11%. Next year, after we add Amri 3, we'll probably get into 13, 14%, and so on. So by 2029, I think we will probably be able to achieve our target, but the target is set for 2030. The third pillar is hydrogen, and of course, everybody knows that we've been working a lot and advocating for green hydrogen, and we want to do two things. Number one is contribute to the global energy transition by supplying the world with the hydrogen that is produced locally. And the second one is also replacing our own consumption of gas, where gas is used for heat, with hydrogen, so long as we can make the transition affordable to the customer. And so these are the three pillars that we are really sort of playing with and try to balance it as much as possible.
I mean, obviously, we, as Aufi Alternative Energy, we have about 7 gigawatts of clean energy in our pipeline, so hoping that we can contribute towards that. Your Excellency, Luigi Di Maio, the EU is deeply committed to accelerating energy transition globally. Given your extensive experience in coordinating international initiatives, such as the G20, how can the EU enhance cooperations with the GCC to expedite the energy transition? What specific opportunities exist for EU-Gulf collaborations on renewable projects?
First of all, I would like to thank Invest Oman and the Ministry of Commerce and the Ministry of Energy for inviting me to this very important forum, very successful forum, and is a good opportunity for networking with many important companies and institutions. I would like to answer your question first, welcoming what a country like Oman is doing with our business environment and our market in Europe, because Omani government is not only engaging rightly in a G2G approach with our institutions in Europe and our member states, but is even directly engaging on this chapter of climate green transition with our companies. And this is something with our port authorities, for instance, not only companies. So it's working, going deeper in our market and creating very important projects, for instance, about hydrogen. Then, looking at the future of our enhanced cooperation, it's clear that on both sides, European Union and GCC, and I would like to thank His Excellency, the Secretary General of the GCC, Jassim Abdullah, is here. We are creating, and we created during the last year, very important channels of cooperation in order to enhance our cooperation. First of all, the first ever summit of our leaders was something historical in Brussels last year, and in the final statement you can find many initiatives to implement on the side of the green transition and climate diplomacy. Second, was just announced, and we are working on that, the first ever energy security conference EU-GCC. It's something that is very important, in my opinion, in order to coordinate even many important initiatives, not only, again, on the G2G side, but even on the B2B side. And third, I think there is this EU GCC Green Transition Project where we can engage more and more, for instance, on what is doing Oman on the hydrogen field. The main challenge, and this is what even we usually discuss in a positive way with the Minister of Energy, His Excellency the Minister of Energy, is to try to use the predictability of the European market in needs of hydrogen in order to help the hydrogen, the market of the hydrogen at world level. Because if I look at the Repower EU program of European Union, we are going to import 10 million tons of hydrogen per year by 2030. This is the ambition. And it's clear that we need reliable partners. The GCC countries, like Oman, were already reliable partners in other kind of energy sources, and I'm sure that they will be very important for that. But as European Union, European market, we have to achieve the goal to regroup the demand in a platform where we can create more predictable even effects on the price side of the hydrogen. And finally, if I may, I think that I'm here even to say that we are very interested to work more and more with Oman. Even in order to try to involve Oman more and more in our initiatives in Brussels and vice versa, to be involved more in the brilliant initiatives of Oman here. In particular, for instance, on the ATS, on what is all the sector of the carbon pricing and how we can together work on the goal of the carbon neutrality. So we have this very important initiative that is called the Emission Trading System. It exists since 2005. And we can work more and more together on that. And even our task force on the sustainability of the carbon pricing and how is task force for carbon pricing and carbon market is something where I think with Oman we can work more and more.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll move on to His Excellency Dr. Abdullah. Biodiversity loss is unprecedented in 65 million years, with nearly a third of forest cleared globally. Oman has unique ecosystems from coastal areas to mountains. What innovative conservation approaches is the Environmental Authority implementing to protect Oman's biodiversity while allowing for economic development? And how do you measure success in these efforts?
Thank you very much. I would like to express actually my thanks for the Advantage Oman Forum organizers for inviting me to be here with these great personalities from different sides of the world. Coming back to the question, Sultanate of Oman is one of the countries who paid a big attention to the environment since a very long time. The first environmental congress held in Stockholm in 1972. Within 2 years since that global event, the Sultanate of Oman established the first environmental institution, which was the Office of His Majesty Environmental Consultant at that time, issued the first environmental law, declared the first nature reserve, which is Al Qurm Nature Reserve, remains until nowadays as the land of Muscat City. Since that time, the development of the institutions, the legislations, the rules, the capacity keep developing, and right now we are protecting more than 15,000 of species, fauna, flora, marine wildlife. And there are a group of success stories actually in the environmental history of the Sultanate of Oman. For example, when we go to the Arabian oryx. In 1960, the number of Arabian oryx decreased to be in between 6 to 8 heads. And despite the absence of the infrastructure at that time, the police, the rangers, the public entities, the political decision was taken to transport a couple of them to UK to save the species. Immediately when late Sultan Qaboos took over the reign of the power in the Sultanate of Oman, decided to search for the rest of them. And 3 couples also transported to US in California Nature Reserve. and also transported the other couple from UK to there. And the program of rehabilitating and increasing the numbers applied. 1985, almost the number was almost 35, and they reintroduced again to the open environment in the Sultanate of Oman. Right now, we are talking about hundreds, and there are procedures to remove these species from the red list of endangered species. And we expect that announcement to be very soon. That also applied on the Arabian leopard, which is the only species in the open environment in the world. It is a part of Samhan Nature Reserve ecosystem. We are really working side by side with the environment, with the development, with the economy sector in order to make sure that we are moving forward more sustainable and also transforming to be more sustainable comparing to the previous and conventional linear economy. Right now, we have more than 450 wildlife watchers. We have more than 1,000 cameras actually located in different locations across the country, receiving direct data from them. Also using the technologies of satellites to keep observing the biodiversity in the Sultanate, either in the wildlife, also in the marine wildlife.
Thank you very much. Mr. Panigoro, operating in regions with sensitive ecosystems, how does Medco Energy integrate biodiversity protection in its operations? Can you share some examples of how your company balances environmental stewardship with energy development, particularly in forested or marine areas?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me here. I feel really honored to be here. Look, operating in Indonesia, where we have thousands of islands and a long coastline, protecting biodiversity and protecting the coastal environment is very critical. And that's the reason why one of our important pillars in our sustainability vision is biodiversity protection. Some examples, at least we have done 3 different initiatives. We did massively a tree planting program, mangrove reforestation and conservation, and also seaweed farming. In the past, when we do this tree planting program, it's actually part of our obligation. One of the policies of the government, if we cut trees for our operations, whether it is for well pad or production facilities or pipeline, we need to replace the same number of trees in open areas. That was in the past. But today, after this climate change and ESG become the center stage, I think our people is fully aware that this is very important. Just for your illustration, in the past, we probably planted 20,000 trees per year, 10 years ago. Today, in the last 3 years, we've been planting average 200,000 trees every year. Yeah. And then mangrove, although we all know the benefit of mangrove to the environment. We also do it not only in Indonesia, we also do it in our operation in Oman, in Thailand. And the last initiative is seaweed farming. Seaweed is unique, although it's good for the environment, but recently it also become an opportunity for profitable business, especially for fishermen. So that's why now we do it massively in Indonesia, and also we started a pilot project here in Oman with the local companies for that same reason. Protecting the environment, at the same time creating new business opportunities. Again, 3 different goals we're trying to achieve with this. Biodiversity protection, coastal environment protection, and last but not least, this plantation could create a natural carbon capture, which is also very important in this fight against climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move on to corporate responsibility and sustainable business model. Businesses play a crucial role in addressing environmental challenges through sustainable practices and innovation. Your Excellency, Luigi, in your previous roles, including Minister of Economic Development and Trade, you have promoted sustainable business practices. How can the EU leverage its regulatory framework and investment policies to drive environmental responsibility among multinational corporations operating in the Gulf. Can you share some examples of your experience where policy effectively changed corporate behavior towards sustainability?
Thank you for your question. Of course, looking at some feedbacks around the world, sometimes someone says that the European Union leveraged too much on the regulation. And I think that now together, in parallel with the regulation, now our main challenge in our discussions in Europe is how to create a balance, a compromise between regulation, green transition, and competitiveness. And on that, I can say, in any case, I mentioned this ETS about the emission trade system. That is something, a directive that is there since 2005. And since 2005, the emissions of this kind of emissions regulated by the directive were reduced of almost 48%. But going beyond that, I think that, as you know, my former Prime Minister in Italy, Mario Draghi, collected this report, the Draghi's report for the competitiveness of Europe. And in this report, you can see how much the ambitions of European Union in order to have more competitiveness, or in order to be more competitive, are totally meeting the ambitions of an ambitious plan as Vision 2040 here in Oman. And this is the real time, the momentum in order to match, to try to meet our mutual ambitions in several fields. First of all, as I said during my speech today, introductory remarks, there is this challenge of the connectivity. I think that along this corridor or another, IMEC or another, along this route, India, Arabic Peninsula, rest of Middle East and Europe, we have many opportunities for our companies and our governments. I would like to mention two fields. The first, of course, I think these two fields are linked to the aspect that we are totally aware in Europe that in order to meet our ambitions in green transition, in particular renewable energies, we cannot produce everything on our soil for limits that are linked to the weather, linked to the geography. And we know that here, this is the land of a cheaper renewable energy. And our companies are not only looking at this area for importing energy, for instance, through connecting grids, but even in order to produce here the green products. And the two sectors that I would like to mention are steel, aluminum, and data centers linked to the increasing of demand of energy by the AI. By 2030, the demand of energy from the AI sector will double in the world. And we will need new data centers. And we know very well that with a good synergy with the with the GCC countries like Oman, we can create a very good opportunity for our companies for investments here. And second, steel and aluminum. If we are speaking about green steel, green aluminum, I think that the projects linked to the green hydrogen of Oman are even attracting the attention of our companies for investing in plants here, not only in order to import green energy there. And then connectivity, as I said, is not only about hydrogen, is not only about transportation of hydrogen, but even about, as I said, connecting grids, even with electric cables, and even, if I may, data cables. Again, this region is crucial for many reasons for our security. Among these issues, there is even the data cable issues, where an alliance, stronger alliance between GCC and Europe can secure more and more our data strategic infrastructures. Finally, we have to look at the future in an optimistic way. As was said during the previous panel, there is a lot of unpredictability around the world, and this is why I think that in times of unpredictability it's better to face the challenges together than alone.
Thank you. I'll move to Mr. Panigoro. As President of President Director of Medco Energy and a veteran of the energy industry, how are you embedding sustainability into your business strategy? And what practical steps has Medco Energy Group taken to align with ESG standards?
Thank you. in embedding sustainability into our business strategy, we have developed 3 main pillars. Pillar number 1 is what I call leadership of and by our employees. This is where we basically disseminate awareness, knowledge and skill, and at the same time accountability, personal accountability, so that they can apply, they can initiate all this ESG initiative properly into the system. The second pillar is what I call environmental and social development. This is where we encourage and invite and develop programs for basically improving our operations so that we can continue to grow with minimum impact to the environment, whether it is emission, any environmental impact. This is where we develop the initiative. It's probably worth noting here, we are not a major company who has a research center with hundreds of PhDs. So that's why, in this case, not only we develop internally these ideas, but we also invite externally with other research institutions to basically help us develop this new initiative. Okay. And the third pillar, this is what I call local community empowerment. When you operate mainly onshore in a country with 270 million people, wherever you are, you will be surrounded by villages. So unless you get the buy-in from them, share the vision with them, incentivize them, that is, I think, the key success for us to implement these initiatives. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to my last set of questions around resource management. Linear consumption patterns are straining Earth's resources. With circular economies, approaches offer sustainable alternatives. Your Excellency Salim, how is Oman maximizing resource extraction and efficiency while minimizing waste and environmental impact? Can you give us some examples of initiatives that are existing here?
Yeah, it's probably better if I go straight to examples. For example, if we go to the oil and gas sector, we have a lot of waste. Steel in terms of scrap, oil, used oil, and so on. And that, together, of course, with the support from the Environmental Authority and the Ministry of Commerce, we are now collecting all of that waste for reprocessing back again in the country, creating not only environmentally friendly process, but also creating opportunities for new industry, new jobs, and so on. So these are 2 items. A third item from the industry is that we are also working actively to start collecting the CO2 from the industries that are very difficult to abate, and we're identifying locations where we can sequester the CO2. So the CO2 capture and the CO2 sequestration is part of circular economy. Not only that, but we also, some of that CO2 collected will go back again into the oil reservoir so that it helps us to enhance the recovery in some of the fields that we cannot recover otherwise.
Methanation, what about methanation?
Methanation is another one. But just on the enhanced oil recovery, what I wanted to add is that from what we've seen so far on the 2 pilots we're executing, 60 to 70% of the CO2 we injected actually stays on the ground, it doesn't come back.
Fantastic.
So it's not like it's circulating, it stays on the ground. Methanation is another area where ultimately to grow it, we need biogenic CO2, but the initial pilot is that we use the CO2 collected from some of the industries, combine it with hydrogen to recreate the synthetic gas that then allow us to continue utilizing the LNG plants, because by combining the CO2 and the hydrogen, you actually create CH4 back again.
Correct.
Except it's not Mother Nature that created it, it's us. So these are 2 or 3 examples where we actually trying to create circular economy. The other one I mentioned earlier, which is the abatement of the flared gas, and we are utilizing the gas not only by cutting the flaring, but also utilizing the gas to produce electricity that we come back again and use it in our business. So eliminate that waste altogether. And if the waste exists, then we collect it and use it for generating something else out of it. So these are some of the examples where we are demonstrating our responsibility to the circular economy.
My last question would be to His Excellency Dr. Abdullah. Water scarcity is a critical issue in the region, and so is waste management. What innovative approaches is Oman taking to water and waste management? And how are you ensuring sustainable use of the water resources?
Yeah, it is a combined question because there are two sectors and both of them are very important. When we go to the water scarcity, the Sultanate is also considered as in the arid and semi-arid countries. And that has changed recently, actually. But comparing to the last 5 decades, Oman facing difficulties in finding fresh water. That's why we reach right now the percentage of 98% of our drinking water from desalination plants. Some of them strategic and central, supplying the desalinized water to governorates and across governorates, and some of them local in different cities crossing the coastal line of the Sultanate, and some of them also in the heart of the desert. So 98% of our drinking water from desalination plants. That means we are relaxing the fresh aquifers. And despite we have 5 to 7 strategic groundwater fresh aquifers, but most of them are not under production right now. Also, we are managing the rain waters coming from cyclones, hurricanes, and so on. So we have above 180 dams, some of them with the capacity of 100 million square meter, like Qurayat 1 Wadi Dhiqa dam. 3 of them also, the capacity of them above 120 million cubic meters, and the others differentiating in capacity. On the governance, there is the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Water Resources, creating the policies, developing them, issuing the rules and regulations and legislations required for the sector, and there is an economic organizer, which is the authority of public entity, and also there are the operators, which is NAMA company group. So the sector is well designed and well governed, and that's why we didn't feeling actually any difficulties in this regard. And in the ranking of the API, in this indicator, Oman is scoring very advanced position. On the other side of circular economy, it is also very wide concept, since His Excellency right now talking about cycling of CO2, about the hazard waste produced in oil and gas field and other industrial zones, but also there is the residential solid waste producing in the residential zones. 4 years ago, there are a new policies which giving the advantage for recycling internally in the Sultanate. Some facilities also provide to the investors. And within 4 years, we managed to reach the number of 83 recycling plants in iron scrap recycling plants, aluminum scrap, plastic, carton, paper, tires, and others. We reached the ratio of 43% recycling from our solid waste producing locally annual. So really, we are on the right way. We expected to be to recycle more than 90% by 24, to recycle more than 60% of our solid waste produced locally by 2030.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our panel. I'd like you to give a round of applause for our esteemed guests. Thank you very much. Thank you.